Hi, everyone, and welcome to the I Am Landscape Growth Podcast, where entrepreneurs help entrepreneurs grow faster, better, and stronger in the green industry. From leadership to sales to recruiting and operational excellence, we cover the topics holding entrepreneurs back and share how to get past those bottlenecks with the best in the industry. I'm your host, Rob Murray, co founder and CEO of Intrigue, a digital marketing company focused on helping landscape companies grow. So sit back and enjoy the show. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the I Am Landscape Growth Podcast. Today, we have the privilege of having Kristopher Dabner on the show. Kristopher, thank you so much for doing this.
My pleasure.
Kristopher's founder, president of the Greensmen out of Kansas City, Missouri. The topics today are going to be a lot around relationships, whether it's with yourself or with your team. So I'm looking forward to getting through that. Background in architecture, leading a company from a one-person show to 30 plus when you're fully cranking. Thanks for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
I'm happy to be here.
So can you just give the audience that's listening right now a quick little kind of introduction, like, where did you come from over the last couple of years and how'd you get up to, running this business right now? And then what do you guys are focused on? So let's give us a quick little background so we can understand some of the perspective where it's coming from.
Okay. Well, I went to architecture school and building architecture. I was interested in that in high school, but was always a gardener. So always gardened with my grandfather, my father. I had my own little vegetable patch when I was about 8 years old.
Awesome.
Where I grew, gourds and zinnias and all that stuff. I went to architecture school. I loved studying architecture and design. I worked for architects to put myself through college and realized by the time I was done that I didn't really want to go sit in an office all day. After a brief stint in TV and film as an art director, I decided that was sort of back and forth with gardening for people, literally just gardening, the guy in a pickup truck with the shovel situation. I decided to move back to Kansas City and see what I could do with a landscape company. And
awesome.
I thought maybe I would have to go back and get a degree in landscape architecture or something else, but that never was necessary. So what we do at the Greensmen is we do mostly high-end residential design. And we do design, installation, and maintenance.
Cool.
So we will design anything outdoors, swimming pools, patios, outdoor fireplaces, screen porches. I often recommend turning doors into windows into doors and doors into windows. And, I get a little bit involved in the architecture of the house as well, but
it's a unique expertise, right? To be able to have that background and be able to see projects from that lens. Like not a lot of folks have that kind of education when they're getting into this type of business.
Yeah. I mean, it served me very, very well. And it gives me, I think, a different way to look at the landscape from really an architecture standpoint. And
big time.
How can we design a garden that is appropriate for the style of the house? And, my goal, we work on a lot of older homes. And when we're working on an older home, my goal is to build something that looks like it was always there or, had
very cool.
It was really, that's steeped in whatever the style and the tradition of the house is. Or if they're, some people don't care about that and they want something, then we do something totally modern, contemporary, a total departure, so that it's,
so it's either juxtapositioned or fully integrated.
Exactly. Because to me, there's nothing worse than a near miss.
Right.
There's nothing worse than a near miss. So that's our design. And then we install everything we design either with our in-house crews or with subcontractors. We use subcontractors for things like brick masonry, stonework, swimming pools, electricians, plumbers, all that.
Sure.
And then we have a full service maintenance department that does everything from mowing, trimming, weeding, seasonal color, holiday decor, you name it, party prep, whatever it is.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So the world has been changing under our feet. The last 3 years has been a bit of a wild roller coaster ride.
Hmm.
We've kind of gone from if you could show up and do the job, you get the job, and now we're starting to see it shift a little bit. It's starting to get a bit more competitive.
Yeah,
Um, that kind of demand release was kind of unprecedented to see that many people like initiate jobs like that.
right.
So what are you seeing right now as the primary growth constraint? And I mean, we see common ones, but what do you see as the most important thing that people need to focus on when trying to grow this landscaping business in the green industry?
Well, I think it's employees, it's
Mhm.
labor, it's getting the labor done. Whether it's trying to hire a designer, trying to hire an irrigation tech, trying to hire, a foreman, somebody who knows, what they're doing, somebody who has some construction experience. Um, I we would hire 5 people today if if we could get qualified people. I mean,
Mhm.
we're constantly bringing in people and training them up, and we have an okay time finding laborers, but
Yeah.
finding somebody and who really knows the industry and treats the industry as a profession.
Right,
You
right.
know,
Well, yeah, well, that is almost an industry-wide issue, right? Like
oh yeah,
that perspective of the profession and the professionalism. One of the things I find fascinating, I mean, this is just an aside, but like so every once in a while we'll speak at a group of like, whatever, 500, 600 landscapers. And you're looking across the audience and you just say to yourself, like, these are the people that shape the way that our world looks. Like
yeah,
our outdoor environment is literally the responsibility of this group of 600 people plus, plus, plus.
yeah,
And for some reason, it doesn't get that type of position in people's minds. And
right,
I just think that's obviously something we all need to work on because it
right,
is amazing. And one of the things I thought was really interesting, there was a gentleman I talked to from New Brunswick out in Canada. And he was saying the green industry is the only real green industry. And he talks to high school kids and to try to like get them interested in becoming,
right,
part of this whole thing. And he said to them, is riding an electric car to school green? And they all put up their hand up. Yes, yes, it is. And he said, well, no, it's just less gray. Is
right,
riding your bike to school green? They're like, oh, of course it is. He's like, no, no, it's just less gray. The green industry is the only thing when you're planting,
yeah.
you're making a difference.
Yeah, we were just having a conversation this morning with a new client in town who it's a big municipal organization, and they're very interested in their carbon footprint and how can they get to carbon neutral, and what can they do. And part of it is, they have a huge campus and they have a lot of trees that are in decline that are going to have to come out, and
Mhm.
they need to start replacing them. And they want to start replacing them if they can before they have to take some of them out. And what does that look like, and how do they do that, and how do they have more landscape beds as opposed to lawn, so that they're not using as much water and so they're not using as much chemicals.
Very
So
cool.
yeah, you're totally right that it is the green, it is, we are the stewards of the earth,
Well, and I
right?
think that that's
We're
this
working for
opportunity.
mother nature.
Yeah, exactly. And like a lot of people don't necessarily leverage that platform to
Yeah,
recruit folks into the space. So what are you doing right now when it comes to staff? Because like it's not just a finding the people, it's also keeping folks, right?
right,
I know a big focus for you over the years has been around this idea of building a strong culture so that
right.
you can, have a team that excels when they're out in the field and when they're supporting each other. So what are you doing around that type of area of the business to make it work?
Well, so there's several things. One, we are about an hour and a half from from Kansas State University, which
Sweet.
is in Manhattan, Kansas, and they have a horticulture department, and they have a landscape design degree as part of their horticulture department. They
Oh,
also,
sweet.
yeah, they also have a landscape architecture degree as part of the architecture school. So
Huge.
you can kind of get both. Um, the landscape design degree is part of the School of Horticulture, which is in part of the School of Ag. So it's a little bit of the redheaded stepchild of the Ag school, but it's still there and it's going. So we go out there several times a year. I've spoken to some of the classes about design, because they have a couple of design classes that they have to take. So I've gone out there and done that. We go out, we always sponsor the NCLC landscape team. I've been to that a couple of times when it's been sort of geographically accessible.
Yeah, okay.
And then we have a lot of K-State grads. And so we're constantly going out there. We have a K-State intern, at least one. Last year we had two. So we're trying to really develop that relationship. And we have the interns, and then they have to go back as part of their internship. They have to do a presentation on what was their experience. What did they, what did they learn? What did they get to do? And so that's been helpful in kids hearing that they came to the Greensmen and they had a really good experience. So,
Epic.
yeah, and a lot of companies do this. This is no big deal, but we send them through a couple of weeks, at least 2 weeks in each department. So, seasonal color maintenance, in installation, in irrigation, and in the design department. And they are literally working in the field. We
Yeah.
are paid, it is a paid internship. They're paid just like any other employee, and they are out there working. They are putting together irrigation systems. They are building walls. They are building patios. Some people have talked about going on internships where they kind of just watched and
Right.
looked, and they didn't really. I mean, we have the
Engage them.
opportunity. Yeah, we have the opportunity for them to really. I mean, they're dirty at the end of the day,
Yeah.
right? And some of them have already had experience, and some of them have no experience. So that has been really our most helpful thing as far as getting new people in.
Yeah, well, and I
Uh,
think one of the big things people need to understand though is that you're out there actually doing the work. Like you're talking to these kids, you're getting out to the schools. Like,
oh yeah,
it's not just about putting ads online and hoping that people start walking through the door, right?
right. No, we have relationships with the professors, and we do everything that we can to engage the entire school. And frankly, would do more. I mean, it's an hour and a half away. We can go out there for the day and come back if we need to.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's been very helpful. Um, we so our business is really built on relationships,
Mhm.
and it's built on word of mouth, and it's built on culture. So you know, almost everybody that works for us has come here through some other connection. Some other student at K-State, some other person. We've had clients who've recommended to their children or their friends' children that are interested in the industry. Um, our staff is a lot of our head guys bring in their friends to
Yeah,
be
that's huge.
and to work with their team. One of the things I love about our guys is that they bring in people sometimes and then they tell us to fire them a couple weeks later because they don't work hard enough. They're not. We're very fortunate that we have guys that really believe in us and believe in what they do, and they're proud of their work, and
Mhm.
so they know they want to bring on people and they want to work with people who can work and
Yeah.
who are they don't want to bring in somebody who's just dead weight.
Yeah, so I mean that says a lot though about the culture, kind of what you were saying before about like, so first of all, there's a standard of expectations that everybody's bought into. And then
Yeah.
there's also this like remarkable transparency and willingness to speak about it up front. Like there aren't a lot of organizations where you've got somebody, maybe a foreman or a mid-level manager or a manager being like, I know I brought this person in, but they got to go. Like
Yeah.
to have that type of open dialogue. So like, what are you doing as a leader in an organization to build a culture of like a standard of excellence in terms of discipline and rigor, but then also this openness and the way that like people to be able to communicate and feel safe to be able to do so?
Well, I like to think that I have an open door policy. That I'm out on the job sites. I'm out there. If we've got a job that needs to get done and I need to go get behind a wheelbarrow to get it done, I do. So, I am not like the guy in the office that never comes out. I
Right.
am, not that I do it often,
Sure, but
but
you will lead by example if need
but
be.
if I need to, I do that. We have manager meetings, so every other week, on usually Tuesday or Wednesday, all of the managers, there's 8 of us, we get together and we have lunch. We talk. Usually, the first 20 minutes is about what everybody's doing in their personal life, and then another hour of just like what's going on, what do we need to be thinking about, what materials do we need, what's the next season coming up, do we need to start thinking about snow removal, do we need to start thinking about holiday decor, you know so that's the managers. And then they go down to their people and have meetings of what needs to happen in the department, what's going on. We try to give them the information they need fiscally so that we can say, okay, your department is meeting its goals, or it's behind its goals, or it's ahead of its goals. Here's what you can do. Here's where you need to be. So we do a lot of that sort of transparency of just everybody talking about stuff, and there's nothing that's off limits. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's cool.
we can talk about anything. I'm not trying to hide anything from anyone. And then just as an organization, every 4 to 6 weeks, we have a barbecue. And I go out and I buy all the groceries, and I go get carne asada and tostadas and all the stuff. And, the guys take off from their second job so that they can be there on a Friday afternoon. And we get off at, 2:30, 3 o'clock, and we start the grill up, and, we're there till 7 or 8 o'clock at night, just
Awesome.
barbecuing and, having fun. So, and
Well,
that's everybody. I mean, that's the office manager, it's the designer department, it's everyone. We're
and
all out
how
there.
often do you do that?
In the summertime, we try to do it once a month.
Yeah, I mean that's
Usually
huge.
ends up being about every 6 weeks.
Sure, that's okay. I mean, you're in your prime season of getting it all happening, right? So, but taking the time though, that's a huge thing that you're doing for everybody, providing, and food goes a long way. I don't care who you are,
Oh yeah.
and bringing everybody together. Like, I mean, that's a pretty simple piece to execute, but a lot of people don't necessarily want to take the time to do it.
Yeah. Well, we have a really fabulous office manager, and she loves to celebrate everything. So she
Perfect.
knows she knows everybody's birthday. She knows everybody's hire date. Everything is acknowledged. We have donuts more often than we don't have donuts.
It's a good thing
So
you're burning calories like crazy in 100 degrees.
exactly. Yeah, I
Okay,
said our insurance company is going to wonder why we all have diabetes in a couple of
right.
years, but from all the sugar. But
But you're highlighting a couple of things though, right? So first of all, you mentioned relationships being a big thing, and what's turning into word of mouth, not only for customers but for employees, but also in in the notes before the call, we were talking about this idea of relationships. It's like it's customers, it's staff, and vendors,
yeah,
and having relationships, focused and woven through all three stakeholders. So can you just speak a
yeah.
little bit to that philosophy? Like what makes you think that way?
Well, so I will say that I come from a long line of volunteers and sort of people who, like, I remember as a kid volunteering with my dad for different things. Both sets of my grandparents were involved in all kinds of organizations. So when I started my business, the first thing I did was go out and start volunteering for organizations that I believed in. And I met people at those organizations, and when they found out that I did landscaping, they're like, "Oh, I need help landscaping." You know, we're simpatico,
Yeah.
so and so between that and then just giving people really good customer service and getting to know them, and um, you know, and their referrals, and now this is 29 years I've been in business, so I've got 29 years worth of referrals going on.
Right.
So as far as so I remember I had been in business for maybe 5 years, and I decided to have a holiday party. And I invited my friends, my college friends, my new friends. I invited my family. I invited my clients. They all came to my house at Christmas.
Yeah.
And it was an open house, and people were in and out, and everybody got to know each other. Everybody got to meet my grandparents. Everybody got to meet my dad.
Very cool.
And so I have clients that were at that party 25 years ago, and they're still asking, how's your dad doing? What's
Yeah.
good? So I think getting connected with people in a really personal way, not just as an invoice, not just as a bill, but um, as as a real person. And if I have a client that is working on a fundraiser and they need a donation, if I can do it, I will. I'll
Yeah.
donate something to them.
That's
And,
cool.
and trying to find out. Part of our design process is an hour-long consultation, and I would say half of it is talking about the project, the design of the project, what we need, what they want. The other half of the project is, what do you do? What's important to you? How many people come to your house? Do you have kids? What do they do? What sports are they in? How, finding out, like really getting a connection with people so that you're more than just a vendor to them.
Yeah, I love that.
And then on the other side with my vendors, again, I've been doing this for 29 years. I go out and I see my vendors. If I'm in the neighborhood of a shop where I know somebody, I will stop and say hello. Not just to go in and get something, but just to say,
What's
hey,
up?
how's it going? It's hot. It's hot. How are you guys doing? How's your staffing going? How's, what's happening? So just, I think if you just start treating people that way, then when I need to call in a favor
Or help, or whatever.
or help, they're like, yes, of course.
Yeah.
So that to me.
So wait a second, you're talking about the idea of being humanistic with people.
Yeah.
It seems like such like it's crazy though. We've gotten to a spot where it's like we're detached and everything's automated and digitized and invoiced and
yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, you could potentially have a client that you never actually meet.
Sure.
Right? They could they could find you online, they could make a request, you could go do the work, you could send them an invoice, you could actually never meet them.
Mm-hmm.
So the other reason why I told that story about that party is that in that party, I realized everybody knew everybody. And everybody knew me, and they could all compare notes. Right. So,
right.
So I couldn't be an asshole
No.
at work. I couldn't be an asshole at work and then have my clients think that I was like they're all going to talk.
Yeah.
I mean, I had employees there, I had clients there, they're all talking, right? So you need to be the same person all the time. And if you can be yourself all the time, or the majority of the time, you can get to as authentic as you can. That's when people believe in you. That's when people want to work with you. That's when people trust that they can come and
they know what to expect from you.
Yeah.
You're consistent. That's cool. And to your point, you can create that safe place for people to speak up.
Yeah. And they can say, hey, this is happening. We need to take care of this. Oh, I backed into a tree. I did whatever, if they know that you're not, the hothead in the office or, whatever.
Yeah, that's cool. So then, okay, switching gears, this idea of getting paid what you're worth.
Yes.
Tell me more about it, because there's a couple of pieces I want to touch on, but just tell me about that and where's it come from when you mentioned it.
Well, in Kansas City, when I started 25 years ago, there were maybe 2 people in the entire city that were charging for designs. Like everybody, that was just something that you had to do. You just gave away your design to get the job. And a group of us, and I was one of them, was just like, I can't do this for free. And I'm not willing to do this for free. I have a degree in architecture. I have 2 guys that work for me that have degrees in landscape architecture. All of my staff they're degreed professionals. So and anyway, so there's value to what we have, and our design is worth something. And we charge $100 as a consultation fee to come out and talk to you. If you are not willing to spend $100 for us to come out and talk to you about your project,
it says a lot. You
need to go. There are other companies that will come out and do that for free. We won't. So number one, it's setting a value. We're also, and this is something that a client, one of my employees 10 years ago said, she's like, I will do consultations from 7 a.m. till 6 p.m, Monday through Friday, not on the weekends. And if it is not important enough for you to go into work a little bit late or come home a little bit early for this project, if you're more important than me and my time, because I have plans at night, I have plans on the weekend. Why should I have to work when it's convenient for you? If we're a real profession, you don't go to your lawyer on Sunday afternoon.
Well, you might, but you're paying a lot.
Yeah, exactly. You're paying a whole lot more. So yeah. And we give people the design, and then that is theirs. They can do it themselves. They can have their neighbor do it. They can
Yeah,
hire our competition to do it.
yeah,
But what design is a whole bunch of ideas, right? It's a whole bunch of brain power.
yeah. It's the creative
That
thinking. It's like
it's
that's real. A lot of value comes from.
Yeah, yeah. That they don't have. They don't. Most of them don't have the ability to do. That's why they're hiring us.
Yeah, no
So
kidding.
so we treat that, we give them really nice drawings. We do, like, when they get something, we've had people say we're going to frame this,
Yeah, that's cool.
because
So,
it's nice.
how much do you typically charge for design?
That will depend. We have
Average
charged.
though, bell curve, like big,
Oh,
small, put in
I
the
mean,
middle.
like a small little job in a, little, let's call it curb appeal job on the front yard is going to be 300-400 bucks.
Sure.
We have done big estates that have been 8,000, 10,000, 12,000.
So what, 3 grand on average, something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And when did you start doing the $100 consultation fee?
15 years ago, 20
And
years ago.
did anybody balk at it that you didn't
Very,
want them to?
very few people do.
Do
Very,
you?
very few. And again, if they're going to balk at that, then,
I know. I just want to make sure anybody listening to this is like,
yeah,
no one balked at it.
no
Not
one,
anybody
no,
that you wanted to anyway,
yeah,
right? The people that
no,
balk at it are the ones you don't necessarily want to be working with anyway.
right. When people say, so when we say we have $100 design fee, people will say, well, I talked to 3 other companies and they didn't have design fees. I'm like, great, you should use them. And those are the people that I call tire kickers,
Sure,
right?
I get
I,
that.
I, I don't want tire kickers. And our clients that come to us have been referred to us, or if they haven't been directly referred, they have seen our trucks, our logos,
They've
our
heard of
ads,
you. There's familiarity.
yes. And so when they come to us, they know they want us. They're talking to us and us alone. They're not talking to 3 other companies as well.
That's cool.
So yeah.
Okay, so then you look at this idea of open door policies and even just as simple a thing as bringing people together on a Fridays and having a barbecue to build a team that actually care about each other. You look at engaging with local universities and programs to get kids and students involved in their business and charging for your designs, which is really simple, especially when you put it the way you put it, right? It's just like this is value. Like the people that aren't charging for designs, if you're listening to this and you're not charging for designs, please, for the love of everybody, stop.
Mhm.
um, in terms of like over like 30 years running a business, entrepreneur, leadership, all the things like that, is there a resource, book, author, podcast, video, something that you kind of draw off of, or that you'd recommend for someone else to check out?
Oh, well, so I never took a business class. I, I in college or in school at all, right? But I got involved in some entrepreneurial fast track programs, some business plan writing programs. There's a foundation in Kansas City called the Kauffman Foundation,
Cool.
Kauffman, and
Hmm.
I believe Foundation. They do stuff worldwide. They're huge entrepreneurs, very supportive of that. They have a whole bunch of different classes, and I just started taking those things. So,
Awesome.
I read Good to Great. I read Do You Matter? I read Blueprint to a Billion. I read um, Mindset, the E Myth Revisited. I've read all of those, and I took a lot of classes where we read books. I also was involved in what was called a CEO's roundtable,
Oh,
and
cool.
it was a very cool program where uh, there were 12 different CEOs. We came together once a month. The first 2 hours, we had some lesson about something. Somebody came in, a lawyer and marketing person. Somebody came in, talked about something. The second half, we all brought a problem. We said what our problem was. Everybody else gave us advice.
Yeah, that's cool.
Then we had lunch and left. So, and then I was part of a book club, honestly, a business book club where we read a lot of those books. So, all of that was self-taught for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the value though of ongoing lifelong learning, a
Mhm.
peer group of people that are in
Yep.
similar positions, were they industry peers or was it
Nope.
positional peers?
They
Or
were
cross
they
industry?
very cross industry. I was the
Very
only
cool.
landscaper. There was one other person who was kind of vaguely in the construction industry,
Yeah, neat.
but but it's so interesting, right? Because it's hard for you to solve your problem, but I can help you solve your problem
Oh yeah,
because I
always.
because I'm not attached to
Yeah,
your problem. I'm attached to my problem.
right.
So that's always been, I've always loved that sort of stuff. And the other thing about business is business can be just as creative as anything else. So there is no one way to do business. There is no one way to run your business. You need to do what's best for you. You need to do what works for you and your clients. For the longest time, I never had a contract. And I had a business, one of the guys who was mentoring this thing was like, you got to get a contract. And I was like, I, I'm like, we shake hands. Like that works in Kansas City. In Kansas City, that works.
Yeah,
Now,
that's
that
cool.
might not work everywhere, but here it was fine. I felt like if I went with this big document and said, you need to sign,
Right. They'd be like, "What's going on?
yeah, exactly. But
Christopher, what happened?"
yeah, I thought we were friends.
Yeah, yeah,
And not that you shouldn't be serious, and not it is, you have to be professional and everything, but there is no one way. I i had some people at different times try to tell me, well, you have to do this or you have to do that. No, you don't. I mean, you
yeah. It
should
is.
look at it. You
Yeah,
should look at it and say, should I do that or not?
yeah.
Like,
It's
is that going to
intentional.
work for me or not?
That's cool. Yeah, it's almost like one of the most creative endeavors, the building of a business itself, right?
Hmm.
If you let it be, and I just really
Yeah.
appreciate that perspective. That's
Oh yeah.
a lot of people I think don't hear that very often.
Yeah. Well, if you think, so I do not have kids. I'm single. I've never had kids. I've never been married. I don't know what any of that's like. I can imagine that running a business, growing, they call it growing a business, right?
Right.
Like growing a child. I mean, it's going to grow over time. It's going to change and develop. You have to change and develop with it.
Mhm.
Um, you, something might happen in my business that doesn't happen in yours. You've got to roll with those punches. You've got to figure all that out. That So again, you know it's not just, oh, to start a business you do blah blah blah, and then this
Right.
is going to happen at year 2, and this is going to happen at year 5, and this is going to happen at year 10. No,
It's evolving, right? And it's
it's
organic.
evolving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
And then what's going on in the market? How is that affecting you? The Great Recession, 9/11, COVID. I mean,
Who
COVID.
knows, right?
Yeah, who knows? Like for us, and I think for most people in this industry, COVID was amazing.
It was.
I
It
mean,
was crazy.
it was
Gangbusters.
crazy. It made having an outdoor space critical,
Mhm.
right? The thing before, the person before that I think made gardening important was Martha Stewart.
Yeah, right.
And do you remember when Martha Stewart living and everything? I mean, she made it critical that if you were living a good life,
Yeah, you had a
you know,
nice space.
you had a nice space, you had a nice house, and you had a nice garden.
Yeah,
And so you just never know where those, what
kind
are
of
going to be those,
catalysts. Yeah.
the catalysts that are going to change everything.
Well, who knows what the next one's going to be, man. Well, I really
Yeah,
appreciate you taking the time to do this with us, Christopher. Thank you so much.
absolutely. It was great.
Thanks everybody for listening. Another awesome I Am Landscape Growth podcast with Kristopher Dabner. Thanks so much for doing this again.
Absolutely.
The I Am Landscape Growth podcast is brought to you by Intrigue, where passionate marketing meets predictable results for entrepreneurs. Remember to like and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss the next episode. And if you would like to be a guest on the podcast, please visit intriguemedia.com and click on podcasts.